So what we're going to do, we've asked both LME and the producer asked myself as well for a sleeper pick, the winner, a player or a team to keep an eye on, which team will overachieve and which team will surprise us and not make it out of the group. So rather than start with a winner, I kind of like the idea of starting with a sleeper pick because we've got some names we haven't seen before, like Georgia. Scotland have qualified again after a long absence. But when you've got third place getting through in 4 of the 6 groups, you could argue, LME, it's kind of harder not to get through to the knockout stage. So who have you made as your sleeper pick for the Euros?
Yeah, a very good point, MD, there at the very end, which is because of those high-place, third-place finishes, there is room for opportunity for many of these teams. And there's emotional storylines that we can go anywhere. But let me answer straight away. I'm going with Austria. Austria, who, by the way, have made the last 2 Euros, reaching the knockout stages for the first time in 2020, and then they lost to the eventual winner, Italy, in the round of 16. But ever since Ralf Rangnick, remember him, Man United fans, since Ralf Rangnick took over from Franco Foda from Austria, and it's been an absolute revelation. Because before Ralf Rangnick, Austria were very counter-attacking, almost reactive, and a little bit boring. Now, they're the complete opposite. And in fact, their qualifying campaign for this tournament has shown it. They only lost 1 game. That was to Belgium, and that was a thriller, a 3-2 matchup, showing that there's an organizational, skillful, very talented squad. Yes, David Alaba is injured, but they have a lot of talent, including Kevin Danso, the replacement of David Alaba. Look him up, by the way. What a tremendous player playing in Liga right now. But they are very, very smart, focused. And when I look at the table and at their group, it's definitely doable for them to get second place behind France because Poland are not what they used to be. And I'm going to talk about the Netherlands later on in this tournament, in this segment. But for me, Austria are my sleeper pick. I like how organized they are, and I like that little sort of, attacking-minded mentality that they have gotten from Ralf Rangnick. What do you think, and who do you have?
I've gone for Belgium. Now, that might not seem like much of a sleeper pick, but the way I've
not a sleeper.
Stop it. Listen, the way, I'm going to show my working for this one. A sleeper pick is someone that's not single-digit odds, right? England are favourites. Still think they're worth taking on at maybe 3 to 100 to 30. France, like them, Germany, Spain, Portugal, they're all single digits. You can get nearly double that on Belgium. You can get 17 to 1 on Belgium. Now, is it the golden generation still? It's still a talented side. Any team with Kevin De Bruyne is a talented side. The problem you've got, now when you've got 4 getting through who finished third in the group stages, there's a couple of round of 16s where the group runners-up meet each other. Belgium might get France or they might get England in the quarterfinals. But you're going to get big matchups like that, and they would go into probably both of those games as underdogs. But I just think there's been too long people have saying, oh, it's the golden generation, it's time for Belgium. Not many people are speaking about them this year. So I like your Austria pick, and I'll be referring to the Austria pick when we talk about a team not to get out the group. Clue, it's not Austria, it's not France, and it's not Netherlands coming up. So what do you think of the Belgium pick? Is it loosely, am I okay to say it's a sleeper pick, or you're not having that?
Only because I love you, MD. But otherwise, come on now. A sleeper pick on Belgium. Oh, here's a player you've never heard of. Kevin De Bruyne. Oh, he's really good. Look out for him. Oh, Kylian Mbappe. Come on. Sleeper. You're going to give somebody that nobody's paying attention to. Somebody that's asleep. And that's why I gave I get your point. I get your point about Belgium. The fact that nobody's really going to pick them as a favorite. As you said, France and England are clearly ahead. And then maybe you have other players like the host Germany after, maybe rejuvenating themselves, being at home. Of course, even Portugal under Roberto Martinez. But Belgium as a sleeper, they're still one of the favorites, top 5. I mean, Spain included in that one. I'm not fully excluding it. You're just about getting away with it, MD. That's all I'm about to say.
Who's your winner?
My winner is France. That's my winner. And yes, I know England fans want me to say England, and there is no denying in the overwhelming talent that England has. You could argue to say that it's probably the most talented, deepest squad it's had in modern history. But as I have said, ever since he was a manager, Gareth Southgate is too reactive. He coaches like how he used to defend. And England's biggest enemy is England themselves. Because I think in crunch time situations, in the semis or quarters, when you really have to make in-game decisions, I still fear for what England have to do. They don't have a plan B. So that's my worry. Whereas France, they've been there before. They know exactly what it takes. They have the killer instinct. And something that I like about the French team is that not only do they now have Antoine Griezmann and Kylian Mbappe and all these experienced players, Upamecano, of course, Dembele, but now they have these young stars who are now experienced starters in their domestic teams like Tchouameni and Camavinga. They've got Zaire Emery, the 70-year-old superstar from France as well. So that little X factor. And when you look at this squad, it's so deep. But the most important factor for me when it comes to deciding the winner is that you need to have been there before and you need to understand the meaning of a killer instinct. And that is France to me. Who do you have?
Totally agree with everything you've said there. I think when you're looking at whether it's betting or whatever, you don't just bet for the sake of it. You look for value. Now, if Randall, Kolo, Muani had scored that goal past Martinez in the World Cup final, would France be second favourites for the Euros? No. They'd be probably half the price that they are, right? And at 4-1 right now, I think that's a knocking bet for everything you've said and depth as well. Now, England, middle to front, are as good as anybody in the world. Defensively, awful. That defence, if that wins the Euros, Gareth Southgate should get a knighthood. Because it's not strong. It's not strong enough. The goalkeeper's not strong enough. The defense isn't strong enough as well. They can attack you from wide areas, but centrally, no. They're going to have to score 2 or 3 goals in the knockout stages in each game to probably win the games because you can't trust their defense. For France, there's strength and depth. The French backup players for each position could probably have a good claim of getting to the knockout stages and beyond in this Euro. So I like that. So I've gone for the same as you. This is an interesting one. One player to keep an eye on. Who have you gone for?
This is tough because obviously you can go with, the likes of Nico Williams from Spain, who I think is going to make a big move this summer. Or you could talk about other specific talented players like Zaire Emery, the aforementioned player I just talked about from PSG. But actually, I'm going to go with Mikhailo Mudryk, Chelsea's Ukrainian player. And I'll tell you why. Ukraine, obviously, we can talk about them later on, but let's focus on the winger in a second. He's the assist leader for Ukraine in qualifying. He's gotten the most assists out of any Ukrainian player during the stages. He obviously got that great, fantastic winner against Iceland to make it here. And I think that this season with Chelsea, even though Chelsea have struggled once again and finding inconsistency once again under Mauricio Pochettino, Mudryk actually has been showing a lot of maturity as a 21-year-old. And on the international stage, this man just levels it up and he rises his game. So I want people to pay attention to what Mudryk can do with this Ukrainian side, who I'm sure the neutrals will be cheering for.
I like that. And I'm kind of gone down a similar avenue for this one. I've gone for a player who's probably better form for his country than his club, Rasmus Højlund.
Nice.
7 goals in 12 games for Denmark. He just fits the way that they play. So I like him. There's a lot of youngsters, and we forget the likes of Mudryk and Højlund and Lamine Yamal's 16. I saw a thing the other day. I was doing prep for the Barcelona game, and in 2040, Lamine Yamal will be the same age as Kevin De Bruyne is now. That's how young that he is. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Are me and you dead by this point, Donaldson?
I hope not. I just want to last the next half hour to get through this week's ESPN FC Live on a Wednesday. What about a team to overachieve? Who have you got?
Well, I mean, this is a compliment, and I'm going back to Ukraine here because after Belgium in their group, second is up for grabs, and even a high place, third place, as we talked about at the beginning of this show. So these are obviously important things, when it comes to qualifying. Now, I want to make something clear. There are obviously bigger things, more important things going on in the world than football, and Ukraine, who continues to suffer under the tragedies of war. I know that this team is collectively becoming such a family that they want to do this for their nation, for their compatriots all around the world. And I think that will be the added element for them to try and overachieve, because once you get into the knockout stages, and again, like I said, I think they can get out of this group. I mean, we've already talked about, from a team perspective, we've already talked about Mudryk, but Zinchenko is another player who really rises when he plays for his national
Plays
team.
further forward, doesn't he? Plays as a
He
kind of
plays further
midfielder.
forward like a winger, and he takes on more responsibility when he represents the Ukrainian national team. And here's another one that I know you know, Artem Dovbyk from Girona, who, by the way, is the joint leading scorer in La Liga, the same goals as Jude Bellingham, and of course, and the striker from Ante Budimir, right, from Osasuna. Yep. He's got 16 goals in La Liga. So this is a very talented, eager team, and I think that willingness, that passion to represent their nation and bring a smile, I think will be the added component. And as a neutral, I know that I will be rooting for them. I see them overachieving in this tournament.
Look, it's impossible for me to get my usual weekly mention of my team, Heart of Midlothian, into a Euro 2020 preview, but I can get Scotland in, and that's the answer for this one. I think Scotland will overachieve in the Euros this summer. I like the group. So do Switzerland and Hungary. They'll be looking at Scotland and thinking easy meat for us, which is fine. Germany, I liked it more prior to the recent friendlies than I did afterwards, and I liked it more prior to Toni Kroos deciding that he wanted to spend his summer in Germany and not on a beach somewhere, and he's kind of back out of international retirement. However, I mentioned earlier about 2 of the round of 16 knockout stages are between sides that finished the runners-up in their groups.